I'm Pato, and I got a lot of vinyl last month, so I'm gonna show it off pretty quickly. There's 18, so I'm gonna keep it rapid fire. First up is Debut by Bjork. Equal parts art pop and acoustic. This album goes in a ton of really unique directions, from these really intricate harp backings or these very ornate string ensembles, saxophones, while she sings her ass off, to these very electronic house club mixes, which are super cool. Whatever direction this album goes in, I think it is so good. This is what some of it sounds like. Up next is Symbol by Susumu Yokota, and this is a romantic, dreamlike, ethereal reimagining of a lot of classical music through an electronic ambient lens. Super pretty. I would do it an injustice to try and describe how this sounds. Here's some of it. Then we have Fidelity by the Durutti column, which plays with so many different styles and sounds that I don't really know which to highlight. There's trance and dance and ambient electronic music. There's these really lavish, almost operatic vocals. There are a lot of the backing, which is progressive drums and these acoustic jazz guitars, or things that are just drowned in so many effects, so much reverb and warping. But it's all so cool. I really love this album. It's one of my favorite, period, and really stoked to have it physically. This is what some of it sounds like, but again, every song on this sounds like it could have come from a different record. Victorialand by Cocteau Twins is hazy and washed out and syrupy, but gentle and spacious and so ephemeral. It's dream pop at its finest, super ambient, super relaxing, really lush, really textured. It's just great. It'll put you to sleep in the best way possible. Here's some of it now. Mars Audiac Quintet is spiraling and maze-like. It's zany, eccentric, avant-rock, bubblegum art house. It's so hypnotic and trance-like while still being catchy and earwormy. I think it's Stereolab's most focused album, and it's so much fun to get lost in or just lose track of yourself while you're listening. It's so cool. This is what some of it sounds like. Geogaddi by Boards of Canada is one of the coolest albums ever in my eyes. It's not a departure in style from their other releases, but something about this feels so distinct. There's some controversy surrounding this one specifically on whether or not it's satanic or occult, and couldn't really say. There's a ton of dissection on whether or not it is or not, or the connection to 9/11. Regardless, It does feel religious to me, or at least spiritual, in terms of highlighting the connection between the world and our bodies in a kind of sinister way at times. It definitely feels darker and hazier and more aggressive. It's claustrophobic and at times paranoia inducing, but it's balanced by these really light and airy moments, as if you're swimming and going up for air every once in a while. But when you're in the deep end, it can be disorienting. It's a really cool album, and it's amazing to me how many emotions it manages to evoke without ever really needing to rely on words. And the sense of atmosphere that this creates is unmatched. It's so good. Front to back, religious experience. The next album is East by Joanna Newsom, and this album is dense and lyrical and so poetic. It's beautiful and decadent, but at the same time, it's still light and airy and open. The balance between these grand orchestral arrangements and her harp playing and very lilting, distinct voice makes for a really unique experience listening to this. The album is only 5 songs long, 4 of them being near 10 minutes or longer, one of them being almost 17, I'm pretty sure. That is to say that there is some very long-form storytelling going on, and like I said, it's so poetic. Beautiful album. It feels like it was plucked from the Renaissance era into the modern day. I love her so much. She is very much a generational talent. Her music is not on Spotify, unfortunately.
Dried rose petals, red brown circles, frame your eyes and stain your knuckles.
Next album is Donuts by Dilla. This is a series of essentially hip-hop vignettes, some very short ideas that are soulful, sample heavy, and so catchy. Really great album, front to back. If you like rap, you probably know what this is, so I won't speak too much on it. And if you don't like rap, consider giving this a shot, because I think that production has a lot of merit to it, and him and Madlib are some of my favorites.
I can't stand to see you cry, no baby, now.
Clam Day by OTTO is indie rock meets IDM with splashes of modern day electronica and ambient music. It is genre bending and doesn't take itself too seriously. It's so sweet that it's sour, like melted crayons and warm Kool-Aid. Slightly off-putting. I don't think that this album is for everybody, but it's one of my favorite to come out in the last decade. It's like a toy box full of really bizarre dolls. I'll just let you listen, because I don't know how else to describe this. Velocity Designed Comfort by Sweet Trip is such a solid album. It blends a lot of genres together really well, namely shoegaze and IDM, which makes for some really melodic and pop-forward songs that are still pretty experimental. Especially for the era it came out in, I just love the sound of this, and every time I listen, I come away with a new favorite song. It's just so cool. This album and You'll Never Know Why have just cemented Sweet Trip as one of my favorite bands. I love their sound so much, and this album is front to back amazing. Okay, And that was the first pile. I still have another one, so I'm going to try and speed this up and let the music speak for itself instead of trying to describe it. Up next is the Home EP by Two Shell, which is a new band that's coming out with some very experimental hyperpop, club, ravey stuff that's pretty cool. Then we have Straight from the Heart by Patrice Rushen, which is 80s jazz, R&B, soul, super groovy, great voice, and it's fun to put this on and pretend to know how to dance. Man Alive by King Krule is noisy, post-punk, jazz-infused at times. It feels like leaving a bar on a rainy night, and the state of mind you're in depends on what song is playing.
Misery, you came alive. Lock the door, run above. I was doing some good, I was keeping clean.
Vespertine by Bjork is like a porcelain teapot full of ink or an old loom full of gold string. It's equal parts decrepit and ornate. It's beautiful, intricate, there's so much intention behind all of it, and I cannot believe that it exists. Every time I listen, I am so blown away. It's amazing. One of the best I've ever heard. Next is Jubilee by Japanese Breakfast. This sounds like summer pop, but in the background has some pretty mature themes of loss, whether it be of relationships, of parents, of yourself, and what it means to reconnect with your identity. This is Michelle Zauner, so Crying in H Mart was written by her. She writes really well, and it reflects in these songs as well. It's a great album. Treatise on the Steppenwolf by the Durutti column is an accompaniment for a theater performance of an adaptation of a book. There's some live sessions, but this is like a studio album of what they played live. It's kind of weird, pretty obscure. I didn't really know about it before I got it, but when I got Fidelity, it was cheaper to get 2 vinyls shipped from the UK, so I ended up getting this. Don't really love it, to be honest, but it's fine. Hosono House by Haruomi Hosono is genre bending. It blends Americana and folk and country with Japanese rock in a really interesting way. He's a member of Yellow Magic Orchestra, which is probably his bigger claim to fame, YMO being a experimental supergroup that pioneered for a lot of genres and was full of immense talent, but his solo stuff is equally influential. He has a lot of albums, and this is probably the weakest in my eyes, but I still like it a lot, enough to get on vinyl, obviously. Something about it I just find really charming. And the last album is Wede Harer Guzo by Hailu Mergia. And it is traditional Ethiopian music that blends soul and funk and jazz. It's grainy, it's warm, it's nostalgic, and it is groovy as hell. It's a great album. that's all the vinyl. Did you like any of these already? Do you have any recommendations based off of these, or are you going to listen to one in particular? Let me know. Or if you just want to talk music, feel free to reach out however you want to do it. Either way, thanks for watching, and goodbye.